able to be trick-or-treating. Wait a minute, aren't you that guy from the costume shop? You are. What are you doing here? Oh. Seriously, do you live around here or something? You're really weird, you know that? Yeah. Look, I get it, dude. The whole creepy silent mime gimmick, I mean, it's very effective, and the blood is a nice touch also. Yeah. I can't give you anything. No, I'm sorry. Really, no candy for grown-ups. Come on.
What a man will do for candy. I will say that. All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I am very honored today to be joined by the wonderful and immensely talented Casey Hartnett from Terrifier 2. In theaters now, being extended into theaters this weekend, so you guys can still check it out. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's an honor to be here, so thank you. And like you said, Terrifier is still in theaters. So here we go.
Absolutely. And I guess that's sort of like a good segue into kind of the first question I wanted to ask, which is, this film, I've been following all of the stuff on social media of like how much it's been making. It's in the top 10 at the box office right now, like the Top Gun Maverick out of there. It's just exploding right now for an indie horror film. That is huge. And when you hear all this like praise, all this just good word of mouth towards both the movie and towards you, I'm wondering, as an actress, just how does that make you feel? Like, where's your mindset when you see that?
I just got chills when you said that. It's pretty, I don't know, it's really exciting. It's also very strange at the same time, I think, because I'm not quite used to that. But yeah, it's been really exciting. I mean, when I went into this film, I never expected it to be in theaters, right? So luckily, Damien got that distribution deal, which was amazing. And the support has been amazing. And it's so fun and just so nice to be a part of a film that is supported in that way, and that people are really, taking a liking to. And I'm just glad that people like it. I'm really glad that horror fans have liked it, that people who, aren't necessarily, diehard horror fans, they also are seeming to like it as well. So it's just really exciting and a little surreal, but we're so grateful. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And yeah, it's pretty wild, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, well, it's definitely worth all the hype it's getting. It's fantastic,
yeah.
And your performance is fantastic in the film.
Thank you.
And that's kind of another good segue into, have you been a fan of horror your whole life, or is that something that's just like kind of hit you recently? Or
so I have been a fan of horror. I have liked horror films for quite a while. I remember being in middle school and watching The Grudge by myself. Like, I was at dance class. I came home from dance class, turned on The Grudge. I was like, I really want to watch this movie. And I watched it by myself. And ever since then, I've sort of gotten this thrill from challenging horror films to scare me. So I don't know where that comes from in me necessarily. I don't know, I think I have I just love that adventure and that fantastical element of horror, even though real horror things happen. It's like, sometimes it's based on, I've seen horror films that are based on true stories, and that's even creepier and wild. But I think that there's this escapism in horror that is just so exciting. And so I always love to challenge horror films to scare me.
Yeah, I that's a really good answer. I totally get that, and it's I because I'm someone who I watch horror films almost all the time, so it's hard for a horror film to scare me as well too. But I always try to throw in that challenge, and it was I, and like very rarely have I been scared recently until I like watched both Barbarian this year, which actually got me pretty good, and then also your own movie because of that uh, amazing performance from Georgia McPhail. Hope I'm saying her name right.
So yeah, Georgia, and then Amelie, Amelie McLean. Yeah, Amelie McLean played the little pal girl, and Georgia played uh, her in the Vanity. When Elliot see or when Jonathan Elliot sees her in the Vanity. So we used
Okay,
so
cool.
Amelie was in the majority of the film, and then Georgia was sitting at the Vanity with the deformed face.
Oh wow,
So we had
that nice.
so she was kind of a stand-in, but they were both
Yeah,
for young actors. They were so good,
and,
so amazing.
and I've been saying that like back in the 80s and 70s, you had some of your good performances like The Goonies and Stand By Me when you had like younger actors, but not like today. Like you get stuff like the kids from It, Stranger
Mhm.
Things, all this stuff, and now it's like you're getting this child performance, and it's just she was scarier than
Yeah.
art was. I would sit back in my chair and be like, "Hell no, please."
She was so
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was so blown away by her performance. She was so good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, this was like one of in a long time for a horror movie to scare me. But
Mhm.
talking about horror, I'm just kind of and scary. I'm just kind of curious because this film is about killer clowns and or sort of yeah, a killer clown.
Yeah.
If have you ever had like a fear of clowns, or is that something that
I never really have. Um, I never, I never really had that like clown birthday party or anything like that. So I think I just never really had an opportunity to get scared of clowns as a child. Um, but yeah, for some reason, I mean, they're creepy and weird, but yeah, for some reason, they never really bothered me, I guess.
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
I've never really been super scared of clowns either. But I don't know, like there's definitely I always thought they were I think the right word for me is they were strange or weird. Like I never really understood it until later in life.
Mhm.
Um, but I was never like truly scared of them. Uh, but I mean that does kind of lead me into who do you think is scarier, Pennywise or Art? I'm just
I think
curious.
art is scarier for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I really, yeah. It's everything about him is creepier. The way he teases people, the way he's also a bit more human like. So it's almost like, I don't know, it feels like he's just a bit more present. Um, and the way he kills people is also way worse.
yeah.
So I would be way more scared of Art than Pennywise if I ran into either of them. But I would be scared of both, of course. But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, art definitely is you know, definitely the scarier one, but he also kind of has this presence to him that makes him where you're kind of uncontrollably like you should not be or uncomfortably
mhm,
laughing. But
mhm,
it's like but he has this art to him that and there was no pun intended I didn't do there. Where he was where he will do something that is so just got like so scary, so frightening, but it's like also the performance from David Howard Thornton so good that it like just
Mhm.
makes it to where you're also laughing at the same time. It's like
Yeah,
conflicting feelings. It's yeah.
exactly. I think that conflict makes it like, "Oh, this is just like a silly clown," and then or just some clown figure, like someone dressed as a clown or whatever, like, it makes you think like, "Oh, maybe this person is harmless, they're just joking around," and then you realize that it's just a way it's kind of just a way to lure you in and to trick you in a weird way, if that makes sense. I feel like, the joking and, it's just a way to make him it's manipulative is what it is. It's manipulative. It's like, um, in the glasses scene, you can that's in the trailer, that whole thing, that whole part that became a meme. Um, it's like, haha, look at me. I'm just joking around. I'm a childlike clown. And then little do you know what that clown is capable of. So I feel like yeah, there's something creepy about that.
And when you met like David Howard Thornton, was there any sort of like um did you have any knowledge of Terrifier going into it? So like whenever you met him, like I could just imagine if I met him, uh I would be kind of both scared but also excited. I'd be like, you know,
Yeah, so it was interesting. So I actually hadn't seen Terrifier before I auditioned, and then after I auditioned, I watched Terrifier to just kind of know the world that I was getting into as an actor. And I wasn't sure how that was going to go working with David, and I wasn't sure if he was, we were only going to meet him as Art the Clown, or if we were going to like meet him in person first. And you just like never really know how they want to go about that. Like I feel like some actors and some directors would be like, I want you to be legitimately scared, of this clown, of this person, and so I don't want you to meet David until after. But I wasn't sure what that would be like. So I actually on there was one day when it was the day that we were filming the trick or treating scene. Um, that's the day I met him. And the thing is the makeup takes so long. So he was, I met David, um, as he was getting his makeup done. And it was just so not intimidating. He is the nicest person ever. He's so funny and so kind and so caring and such a good person to work with. And so I was just like, all right, well, this is, yeah. And then he actually reached out to me to congratulate me on booking the film. So that was really nice. And I was like, okay, so this is going to be like very safe and very normal, which I was very relieved by. So it was a good experience working with him. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. And um kind of is a good leadway into my next question is, you play Sienna's best friend,
Mhm.
but also Brooke's friend, played brilliantly by Lauren and Kaylee. They were
Mhm.
both excellent.
Yeah.
Um, y'all felt like real best friends. So I'm like wondering, did you guys like know each other at all first, or did y'all just, or was there just a connection there automatically when y'all were working together?
Yeah, I think we didn't know each other before booking the film, but I had met Lauren in the audition because we did a chemistry read together. And then me, Lauren, and Kaylee actually met my first day on set. And I don't know about Kaylee. Maybe it was Kaylee's first day on set as well. Maybe not, probably not Lauren's. I'm not sure. But my first scene was the school scene with the three of us. So that's really the only time we're all together, but it really establishes the group and the dynamic of our friendship in the film, but it also established our dynamic off camera as well. So I really like that we filmed that scene first, or the school stuff first, so that we could all, get to know each other and really ease into the film with a fun scene like that. So that was nice, and they're amazing, and they're such good people, and so it was just such a joy to work with them, both of them, and they're so brilliant, so talented. So it was so fun, and it was a really great way to dive into the film for sure. Hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always great to have a camaraderie like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wondering how for all of you guys, but you included just how because wasn't I heard something about how like shooting was in starting in like late 2019 or something like that, and
Mhm.
so how did COVID affect this movie? I'm sure that was
Yeah,
a big factor.
it definitely did. We were starting to film Allie's kill scene in February of 2020. We started My first scene was, I think, November 2nd of 2019. So filming all the school stuff, and then we filmed a lot of the other stuff in early 2020. And yeah, so between then and the end of February, and then um, all we had left for me was my kill scene. And we got held up because of COVID. So production stopped early March, of course. And then we were going to try to pick it back up. I like most people, I don't think we expected we expected didn't expect it to last that long. So we were like, maybe April we'll be able to jump back in. But then it was August, September, November, and finally December we filmed Allie's kill scene. And went upstate for that, and it was freezing, but it was fun, and we got and we got through it. But it was, yeah, so it took that long before, I mean, it took took quite a while to really, really wrap the entire film, just because it got held up so much and pushed back. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because I figured COVID had to have some factor in there because
Mhm.
when me and a lot of other people in the horror group were anticipating it, it kept on getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. But it was
Yeah.
definitely worth the wait, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I think it's good timing, honestly. And
yeah,
also, the effects take a long time too. So it actually was a blessing in disguise because Damien got to really work the the big kill scenes, and really getting those effects real good. So I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise in that way too.
nice. Speaking of effects and kill scenes, if you guys haven't seen Terrifier and you are interested, bow out now because there will definitely be some spoilers because I definitely have to talk deep details of what is a horrific and brutal, but also kind of glorious as someone who loves gore in horror movies. Kill scene that literally left me squirming in the back of my seat, like on the car ride back. That's the thing that
Yeah.
everything else was also great, but like that's the thing that was being talked about the most. You're like, oh my god, like just everything from the like salt to the bleach to the uh
Mhm.
cutting of the head to the eye. I cannot handle eye stuff in horror. So as soon as that happened, I was like, nope, nope. And then
Eyes
it
are
was,
freaky.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
but it's just, it was, and you're just watching it and you're seeing yourself there. I'm like, how are you still alive? Like, come on. And it was like grueling and exhausting experience. So I just kind of, but in a good ways. But I was,
Yeah.
so I just want to kind of know, and I also stayed after the film too,
Uh,
where they, which by the way, me and my friend were like the MVPs of our audience. Our audience kind of sucked
oh,
because
really? Uh,
because even though I mean they cheered during the film, but even though it tells you to stay after the film, literally every one of them left, and him and
mhm.
I were like the only ones that stayed for like the
Yeah.
after behind the scenes look at it. And
Cool.
Damien said that that was his favorite scene of the movie to shoot.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if like what was your favorite scene to shoot, but also just about that scene in general and just how that the shooting process was during that because I'm sure there was a lot. It looked like a lot from everything.
Yeah. You know, I I do. I think about it. I think I've said before that the trick-or-treating scene was my favorite to shoot, which I just had a lot of fun that day. We filmed the trick-or-treating scene, and we filmed the initial chase scene up to Allie's bedroom as well. So that was a really fun day. But then, I mean, when we were filming, we went upstate New York to a set that was built up there so that we could messy up Allie's bedroom, and that took 5 days. So the kill scene like that part took 5 days to film, adding more effects. We filmed it in order, adding more effects each day. We filmed it in order too because the room gets messy, right? So in order to track that for continuity, it's just best to film it all in order. And yeah, just adding more effects each day. I just remember it would be hours of sitting. Oh, well, first of all, David had to sit there for hours to get his makeup done. And then I would sit there for however long for each prosthetic that needed to be applied. And it was pretty easy we just, as soon, like, Damien had them made and just put on wherever they were supposed to be. But it was really fun. And I did have a lot of fun filming that scene. It was so cold, but I also had so much fun filming that upstate because it was thrilling. And it was like, we were doing something so wild and so active that it was just a lot of fun. And it's so funny because for the day, I mean, the majority of the day was spent with the prosthetics, and then I feel like we didn't I mean, especially on the first day, we didn't even film for too long because we were doing like the first effect and then um, adding the next effect. But so I think filming got longer each day too, the more effects that we added. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I It's all kind of a blur. Like I remember it, but it's also a blur at the same time because we were all so delirious because we were just spending hours getting the prosthetics on, filming the scene, getting the prosthetics off, and doing it all again in like I don't know how long we slept, but Damien didn't sleep, so he was completely in it the whole time. But yeah, I just remember it was a long process, but honestly, I just love doing this so much that those long days, this is the only job where I don't mind long, tiring days. It's the only job that I would wake up at 4 a.m. for and go to bed at, you know, midnight or whenever. Like um, so we had a lot of fun with it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that man, that totally sounds fun. And I mean, you really sold that scene because I watch a lot of slashers, a lot of horror films, all that.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know if I've seen a as far as theatrically released films, I don't know if I've ever seen a more gorier film. I was like, yo, that's just insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just yeah. I was gonna ask like how many days it took, to shoot that whole thing, and it
Mhm.
was. I'm sure, yeah, it was a grueling process, but
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's 5 days from the eye slash, from the first
yeah,
effect, from being thrown on the bed from the window to the eye slash. But we filmed running into the room before COVID. Um, so we filmed everything up until the first, and then we actually did film like a day or two of. He was starting with a different effect originally, and then decided to kind of backtrack. And so we had filmed Allie in the bedroom doing her makeup, and then going downstairs, and then being chased into her bedroom before COVID. And we filmed like a first beginning to the gore part of that scene, and then Damien kind of used the break to rethink it and started a different way than we had originally. So, but then that part took 5 days. So it was a whole. So it took, yeah, but yeah. So we started before and then finished it. It
And
was
and during the scene when your mom walks in and she finds you all bloody, that was like a animatronic, right? Like a
So
different.
that was yeah, so that was my life cast. So my first day meeting, well, meeting Phil, not meeting Damien because I met him at an audition, but I guess this was my second time meeting Damien, was spent literally him just putting this like goop all over me. He did my head, and then I did an entire body life cast of me sitting like that. And so the final, so yeah, so he had that sitting on the bed. Sorry, this is a huge spoiler. But he had that sitting on the bed, and kind of puppeteered it. And then that was my eye. So he CGI'd my eye. That was the last thing we filmed. During that scene, he just filmed my eye and me being like delirious, CGI'd that onto my life cast and puppeteered it. And then that was my voice. But yeah, so that's kind of how we did that.
Interesting, yeah, because I love the fact that a lot of these indie horror films, especially, use a lot of just pretty much all practical effects,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was really cool seeing that, but like also have a good blend of CGI, like you were saying, how they CGI'd your eye, stuff like that, but having a good blend there, and I could definitely tell there was like because like the movements were kind of it was really fascinating. I was like, I wonder if they used an animatronic there. So that was
I know.
um,
I wish that was
kinda
me
cool.
being like,
I know. Well, hey, it's
but it would have been too many prosthetics. I would have been just yeah, so
yeah.
it was just yeah. So but the life cast thing was super interesting to have done. I've never done that before either. So this whole process was it was a really nice experience because I just had never done that before.
And as an actress, do you have like a process that you do? Speaking of process, to like prepare for roles such as this, or even what we found, which I watched last
Mhm.
night. Do you have like
Yeah,
any? Do you have
thanks
like
for watching that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, you know what?
Yeah,
I have her on the channel. I'm gonna watch one of her other
yeah.
pieces of work,
Thank you.
and it was actually really solid. I
Yeah,
actually really enjoyed it.
thank you.
Yeah. Um.
Um, yeah, I mean, I process is sometimes difficult to explain, but and all actors have different processes, of course. That they use techniques, different techniques. I studied a technique called Meisner, um, which is improv based. It's the one that uses repetition, and then eventually you get into doing scenes. It's all supposed to be very natural flowing. That's how sort of you sort of the words you don't you speak when you have to speak, and it's sort of a training that gets this naturalism out of you. And it's Sanford Meisner, his thing is living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. So my the way I usually prep for a role is by emotional life, so emotionally prepping for a scene, right? So you have a scene, whether it's where you're supposed to cry, even when you have to laugh, you have to your laugh has to be real, right? And it's actually not always. You have to get into a place where you know you you can't force your laugh either, like you can't force tears. So the emotional prep that happens for me is a lot of living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. So it's imaginary circumstances, but having a little bit of a kernel of truth in there. So to get to a certain place, maybe it's, imagining that someone who you're really close with and really who you love so much, so maybe if you have to, get upset about this or get into a certain mindset, upset about something, maybe something bad happened to that person, or It didn't really happen, but in your imagination, you have to use something that's dear to you. That little kernel of truth is that real person in your life. So that's just one way to do it. Some people, that's how I am. That's more so how I prepare, is sort of based on that technique. And that's in approaching the emotional life that way. But um, some people use sense memory, which is they're fully going back to a real moment that happened. And that for me is but sometimes that can be a little too close to home. And then it can also like freeze you up a little bit because if you're not fully over that, it can hinder you a little bit if you haven't fully worked through that thing. So because you're going to be a little protective of feeling those feelings when you're thinking about a very, very real thing that happened to you. So there's all these different techniques that people use, but and it just depends on the actor and which one works best for them, really. But there's a lot out there. It's interesting and it's weird, and acting is, sometimes also it's all about intuition, and sometimes some things just come very naturally if there's a piece of material that you connect with so well, and then you don't even really necessarily realize you don't have to do as much emotional prep. You just connect to it so well, and you just are able to go with it, because it hits you in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's just a sign of also just great storytelling and how an
Hmm.
actor can elevate good storytelling,
Yeah. Sure.
by relating it close to life. And that's one thing that's fascinating about the horror genre as a whole is just the fact that even though it's in an odd way, even though we know none of this type of stuff really is going to happen to us, or we don't really expect it to happen to us, we also kind of relate to horror in a way because of just of how either the characters are written or just how
Yeah.
life events are, or some things in our life is happening. So it's like we always can find a way to connect to
Yeah.
movies, and that's why I just feel that's what makes cinema so great. It's just that connection that we have to it.
That's something that's so beautiful about art in general, right? And
Yeah.
that's also why I fell in love with film. I fell in love with my first character in a movie when I was 5. I fell in love with Harriet the Spy, and I looked up to her so much. And I think it's such a powerful thing when you see characters who like, that's honestly, as an actor, one thing that is so important to me, and something that I learned through other work that I've done in the past. I started realizing why acting was so important to me when I did a scene in an acting class from the Glass Menagerie, and that's still a play I want to do. If anyone wants to cast me in Glass Menagerie someday. But I was playing this character, and I realized that I was doing this role for someone who's very, very dear to me in my life. And I was thinking about them the entire time, and all it made me want to do was make the audience understand this character. If no one else in the world of the play was going to understand this character, all I wanted was for the audience to understand who this person was. And that was one of the most, like, I don't know, such a, it felt like, I don't know, a powerful like reaction for me to this play for myself. And it really put it all into perspective of, if we can just make one person out there not feel so alone, with these people, with these characters, with these humans that we're portraying on screen. It's just such a beautiful and powerful, connecting human thing we can do. And that's why, having such great characters, and being able to play characters that you genuinely care about and want to protect, um it makes it, I don't know, it changes the game a little bit. Yeah.
I completely understand that I remember the film that when I was really young, uh, the film that made me just fall in love with cinema was Wizard of Oz. Just seeing that and
Mm.
just seeing how this world could be created. But then the film that made me realize film was much deeper and was able to connect to us was Signs. Actually, I don't know,
Yeah.
from M Night Shyamalan. I watched that and I realized because it was advertised as an alien movie, but it
Uh-huh.
was so much more. It was something of like it was actually delved into uh, family relationships, into faith, into so much different elements that so many people can relate to. That I was like,
Mhm.
that's kind of the film that inspired me to want to become a filmmaker. So I was like,
Oh,
because I was like, I want to make something sort of like that, that would speak to people, that will,
mhm.
to be able to have people relate to something on and be able to get kind of your entertainment side of things at the same time as being able to emotionally connect to
Mhm.
the characters and to what is happening on
Exactly.
screen. So
I love
um,
that. Yeah, and that's such a good movie too. I love that you had that reaction to it. That's so yeah.
yeah, it's just absolutely. I mean, so is that the film that made you kind of fall in love with cinema, or
Um, I think Harriet the Spy made me wanna become
Harry
an
the Spy?
actor, but what movie I'm trying to think of what movie, like, made me I'm wondering maybe that also was 'cause I'm also a writer and have been since I was a kid, and I used to write scripts and things like that, and, like, I I don't know, I've been writing for so long, and Harriet in that movie is a writer, and so I think that was definitely the film that got me into writing, and then, I yeah, I don't know, and then for some reason, I always wrote in script format, so I was like, "I just wanna write, but I wanna write movies," so I just yeah, so maybe that is the movie that really inspired me to go in that direction, but cinematically, um, I'm I am a little bit of a film nerd, cinematically, the films that inspire me, um I'm also a little bit of a French film nerd, but I love, I always go back to Chantal Akerman. I don't know if you're familiar with the Jean Dielman, 1080 Brussels.
Yeah, nah,
It's like a
nah.
film nerd movie. But
I'll,
yeah,
I'll check it out. I'll put it on my watch list now. So,
it's like, but that movie and then Blue from the Three Colors trilogy, have you heard
oh
of the
yeah,
Three Colors trilogy?
love that trilogy so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Blue is also one of those movies that really always inspires me every time I watch it. And Chantal Akerman as a filmmaker, the freedom she gave herself um, in those movies and the way she, just showed women on screen as well was really, really inspiring for me. And she's more art housey for sure, but those are the movies that I watched when I was in college. I think that really, um, and yeah, that really inspired me to keep writing and keep, just keep trying to work in film.
Oh man, that's incredible. Because yeah, my next question to you is, when you have a project, what is it that inspires you to pick the roles that you choose?
Yeah, um, I think for me, it's the one I look at the writing. And when I was auditioning for Terrifier, I really liked the script, and I had only read a couple scenes, but I really liked the scenes that I had read so far. But and it's also just so because sometimes a lot of times you don't always get to read the full script. When you do, that's a gift. But I would say characters who feel fully developed, and characters who are there's got to be something well, you would hope that there'd be something exciting about the character, that they're in like a wild situation, or um, or they're complex in a way that really, especially for female characters. I'm not like a huge rom-com person. Like, I don't mind them, but I'm not huge into that. So, um, for me, my favorite characters are women who are going through something just uh just pretty, something wild and real. Something, whether they're struggling with their mental health or whether they're running from a killer clown or whatever that is. Women who are, flawed and unapologetic for who they are.
Yeah.
So those characters are always the most appealing to me. Sometimes you can't always pick and choose, but when you get those, it's a real gift. Yeah.
That's that's awesome. It's always to me uh great that even uh as a guy, it's always great to see to me. I like to see women portrayed on screen in a
Mhm.
way that feels honest and true and actually you know uh would feel relatable
Mhm.
too from any kind of perspective. Um like and I've always kind of had that kind of um way with whatever it is, whether it's
Mhm.
women portrayed on screen or the LGBT community on screen, something
Yeah.
like that. It's just the
Mhm.
way that the I've always loved. I always am more gravitated towards a film if I see it not like a not made into. I don't know if I want to say a joke per se, but like
Like a caricature.
yeah, sort
Yeah.
of that type of deal. Yeah,
Yeah, I think, yeah, you don't want it to be a caricature of a person. You want it to feel like a fully formed, complex human being, with so many different layers. So it's always a gift when you get that. I mean, sometimes, like those are usually also, I mean, so it's a gift when the supporting roles also have all those colors. Sometimes supporting roles don't always have those colors. So it yeah, but I mean, it's you can't always pick and choose, but it's a gift when that happens for sure.
oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that you love to write.
Mhm.
And so do you plan on like writing or directing anything anytime soon?
I do.
Ooh.
I
Ooh,
do.
sounds
Yeah, I
good.
mean, right now I've written and directed a few like shorter things, comedy related. I'm more of a dramedy writer. I'm working on a drama short right now, and then I have some feature scripts as well, that I'm working on, and hope to. It's just a matter of getting them on its feet. So, but the short film I'm working on getting, we have certain elements of the production ready, but it's a matter of it getting on its feet a bit more. So we'll see. But yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm working on some things.
that I can't wait to see it. But yeah, that's always my hardest challenge is putting pen to paper. Have the ideas and then I sit there and then I'm like wanting to type it out, but then I'm just like, shoot, what do I do?
Mhm.
It's just like freeze up, that kind of situation.
Yeah, it's not easy, but
Yeah,
sometimes you just have to just write, and sometimes you have to let yourself write bad things
yeah.
and be like,
Um,
"All right, got that out."
but now that you've done the horror genre, is there any uh kind of genre that you kind of want to do next that's you're seeking out?
Um, I'm very open to trying most things. I have an ultimate dream of doing bilingual French and English films. So I don't know. That could be on any genre, to be honest. There are some great horror films from France, like Raw and Titan.
Oh my god,
Julie
I love those so
Garner.
much.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
she's made some awesome films. So, but yeah, I think that's something that's a dream of mine eventually to start doing to like do like international like work internationally. I just love to travel, so I'm like and I'm like I, love French movies like I said. So but I've done I would love to do more thrillers too. I think that I want to do some psychological thrillers. I want to play characters that are a little twisted. um, but I think that would be really fun too. So I don't know. There's so many things that so many places to go with that. But yeah, I definitely love the paranormal and the psychological thriller things. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's psychological kind of horror is my favorite kind. So
Hmm.
just the horror that makes you think and kind of
Hmm.
puts you in that headspace. So where did you learn French? Because
I kind of I grew up learning French just in school. I really started learning French when I was in fourth grade, so I was like 8 or 9. But my family lived in France when I was 2, so I like I think it's really because when you're that young, your brain is kind of a sponge, and so I learned a few words, and I think I just and then from starting it in school when I was in fourth grade, I think I'm not fluent, but that's a goal of mine is to be fluent enough um, to do that. But yeah, so it's always sort of been like I thought I was French when I was a kid because we lived there. I was like, and my parents were like, you're not French. But I just always have felt this connection to it. I don't know. I think that's why though. Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, and I've always loved international cinema as well.
Mhm.
Like I like um, French films to uh, Spanish to Korean.
Mhm.
Like they're
Yeah.
just like you watch them and then I still love like modern Hollywood or like
Yeah.
today kind of films. I gravitate more towards like indie stuff, but you watch some of
Mhm.
the stuff that they uh, do in Korea or Japan or
Mhm.
France, and they're just like Hollywood, get your shit together. that's,
Yeah,
that's like yeah,
Japanese cinema has
it's yeah,
just prolific like, just always been really, really cool. They've always I really do think that, yeah, Japanese cinema, Chinese Chinese cinema has also been, done some pretty awesome things. So there's and then, I mean, that horror film, Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, that's an Iranian film. Um, I think I think there are so many talented people over the world, and Hollywood kind of takes over a little bit. But it's not that these films like there's no obviously there's a place for these films too. But I think there's so many people doing awesome work all over, and I just find that so exciting that to see like different like people and what they bring to the art form. From their own life experiences, from where they're from, and things like that. So it's a beautiful thing.
yeah. It's just it's so good. Yeah, I am learning that culture and really
Hmm.
um, understanding it, and it's just something that's really fascinating. Like some of my favorites are like Old Boy,
Oh yeah.
and then Train to Busan. I remember watching that, and I was like amazed at how a zombie film could actually make me cry. I was like, what?
Yeah,
So yeah,
man.
there's
Yeah.
definitely out there. But so my uh, my next question is um, sort of if you had to pick a horror like if now that
Mhm.
you've done a franchise horror film like Terrifier 2,
Yeah.
if there was any other if someone contacted you, a director or someone like that, and they offered you a role in another horror franchise, which one would you be like, oh, I gotta do that? Yeah.
That's a really good question. I've always really liked the Scream movies a lot.
Yes.
I think Scream would be so fun. Yeah, I just feel like they're so fun and colorful. I'm trying to think too. I'm like, what franchise? I'm My friends and I used to see the Saw franchise every Halloween. I don't know if I would. I mean, Saw would be fun, but that would be a little. Those movies freaked me out a lot. But
Your death scene's already
I
practically an
know
audition for Saw, so it's like, so,
it's already a little cray cray. But yeah, Scream has always. I think Scream would be really fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Scream is my number one horror franchise.
Yeah.
It's the as far as I grew up watching some of the as far as like kid comedy kind of
Yeah.
horror films. Like I grew up watching Abbott and Costello meet
Mm,
Frankenstein, stuff like that.
mhm.
Like I grew up with all that, but like what actually made me fall in love with the horror genre was that first Scream film. When I watched that and I was like
Yeah.
blown away at what horror could do. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. I love them. It's so good.
yeah, I could definitely see you fitting into a Scream movie.
Okay.
I could totally
Make
see
it
that.
happen.
Yeah, you. I'm
That would be so fun.
I'm blanking on the directors' names that are doing these new Scream movies.
Mhm.
But yeah, hire Casey if you watch this. But and I just gotta say, like, this is an incredible year for horror. I mean, we get
It
Terrifier
is.
2, we get like Scream 2022 that came
Yep.
out.
Mhm.
And then we got uh like it's a Barbarian X. Like there's so many good ones, and
Girl.
it's just not even done yet. It's like,
Mhm. Halloween
yeah,
Ends is
yeah.
happening.
It's like I'm gonna go see that later tonight. So it's
Mhm.
like
Oh, nice.
so yeah, so there's a lot of really great horror
Mhm. Yeah,
coming to
it
us.
really is.
And speaking of, I kind of this one I came up with as just like a fun kind of question today. Like I just thought of it in my head is it's as you're well aware, there's an incredible Funhouse sequence at the end of this movie.
Yes.
Um, and I'm just was wanting to ask you that, like, other than Terrifier 2, because now it already kind of has one. If there was a horror movie out there that you would want to see kind of get adapted into like the Funhouse scenario where you walk in and
Huh.
see it, then what would you want to see the most?
Another horror film that sort of has a take on the Funhouse. Um,
Well, it can be like anything. Like you know how like Halloween Horror Nights has like their things of like you go in there and it's like there's all
oh,
that stuff, and it can be like something like that, or it can be anything that has.
yeah. Well, Fright Fest, that was a film festival. Um, Fright Factory in Philly, where we filmed, or where they filmed. I wasn't there. I was dead. Um, but where they filmed, that's a real thing, and they actually are doing some. They do things every Halloween. They have big stuff happening. So I think that you mean so like them adapting like a Terrifier 2 thing. I think they might. I would
Like
have to confirm that.
what I'm like sort of what I was referring to is if you were to take like mine for example is I would love to walk in and see like a Nightmare on Elm Street funhouse with like the things that they can do with the dream world and everything like
I
that. And so
understand.
like yeah, that kind of uh, thing. Yeah,
I mean, obviously Terrifier, but
yeah,
I think
definitely.
a funhouse scenario. Oh my gosh. Well, gosh, there's so I'm like, what would be I mean, they all would be really wild to walk into and see a funhouse scenario. I like for some reason Midsummer came to my mind. That would be pretty wild. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, that movie is already pretty wild. So yeah, that would be definitely a fun one. Um, but uh, yeah, I mean, other than um, horror and acting, I've
Mhm.
also learned that you are a activist. You know,
Yes.
just from the companies that you support. And I'm just was wanting to ask about. I was looking it up, and there's like some of the companies that you support, like Happy Period or stuff like that. Just let us know, like, sort of what that's about and why you support it, why we should support it. You know, just as someone
Yeah.
who's kind of the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I like moved to New York, I ended up writing about writing a comedy about periods, and I started getting involved with Happy Period. Hashtag Happy Period is this organization founded by Chelsea Von Chaz to provide menstrual products to the homeless. Um, and menstrual equity. I just sort of got involved in the menstrual equity movement from there, and met folks from all different kinds of organizations, all about, reproductive health and providing for those in need and things like that. And it's a really really great thing that they're doing. And Chelsea is now also doing something, another organization based off of that called Monarchy, which is about which is your first period. And so she's sort of educating younger people about reproductive health, and that is through that organization. So that's been a really really lovely to see her doing that. But yeah, that's always been something that kind of unexpectedly got into, and then I loved it so much, and really cared about it, and ended up going on a 2-week bike tour from from Brooklyn to Richmond, Virginia, and then to the Society for Menstrual Cycle Research Conference in Atlanta one year, and we were doing workshops on sustainable, reusable menstrual products that are good for like menstrual cups and things like that. I bet people on here were not expecting me to talk about periods, but I, yeah, but that, so it's been kind of a wild journey with that. But I worked with the homeless also for a year, full time, as well as volunteering with Happy Period and running their New York chapter. But yeah, working with the homeless was a wonderful, eye-opening experience, really, and it's something I will always continue to support.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it might have been uncomfortable for some of the viewers, but I just wanted them to really just kind of
Yeah,
get to know
thank you.
you
Yeah,
well and just where you stand on that.
yeah,
And I'll post in the description below, guys. But if y'all want to help like donate to the cause, I donated today. You can anyone can help. Just
yeah.
support that, and
Thank
that
you.
would be yeah, absolutely. I it's interesting. You said you went to Richmond, Virginia. That's actually where I was born, which is interesting.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
Richmond. It's nice.
it's great. I love it too. Um, but I feel like now it's kind of a good time to turn it over to the audience because there's some questions here that the audience is was asking. We'll start with Chingo Zondo. It says Fall wasn't necessarily a horror movie, but it was terrifying. It leaves you physically upset. Are there any movies that have left you physically really affected after watching?
Um, okay, so physically affected. Actually, the first Terrifier, to be perfectly honest. But also, I watched Fruitvale Station, and have you seen that?
Yeah, I did.
And I was so angry. I was just sitting there fuming after
Yeah,
I watched that movie, and I specifically remember that affected me so much. Um, yeah, that was definitely one that I have a very vivid memory of being so upset about. Um, but yeah, Terrifier. I was like, ugh. After the first one, I was like, what did I get myself into?
for sure. Yeah, and there's definitely Fruitvale Station's one of those movies. But there are certain movies out there that like I watched once, thought were really really well done. I thought they
Mhm.
were really well made. They were good, but I'm never gonna watch them again. It's sort of like Fruitvale Station was that way. 12 Years a Slave.
Oh yeah.
Some
Mhm.
like the film like
Django.
yeah, stuff like that. It's just really hard. Foxcatcher was another one that was just
Oh shoot.
that was too depressing for me. I was like, and just too bleak. And knowing it was true, I was like, no, I can't really do this anymore. So that's kind of uh the films that's had kind of a physical effect on me. So I definitely can relate with Fruitvale Station for sure.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Another one we have here is one that was actually submitted on Facebook. And again, guys, if y'all want to submit any questions now, y'all can while we're doing this. But um, they are asking, is or are you going to star in more horror movies now that you've gotten a taste of it with Terrifier 2?
I mean, hopefully someone casts me in another horror film. We will see.
I mean, there is. I don't know if it's still available, but there is a. Um, there is your friend. That was Jesse Heisel, who was
Oh, yeah.
from
Mhm.
the face of horror
Yeah,
thing that I saw on Instagram, and
yeah,
he's trying to work on making a horror
yes.
film right now. You want
That's true. We are trying to
to?
get a script of his made. So,
Nice.
that would also be a slasher, but it's kind of a fun revenge slasher. So, so that's something we're working on. So hopefully, fingers crossed for this upcoming year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. Austin does how he asked the same question I already asked
Yeah,
earlier, which is how did COVID affect
yeah,
the shooting of this movie?
yeah.
Um, uh,
I don't know if was Austin here for that. We may have answered it,
yeah, I think we did right
but
before he popped in with his comment. And uh, just people saying just people giving you praise in the comments. It's so great. Um,
thank you. I'm glad you saw it.
Zombie Flower says, "What are things you'd add to Ali's character, like whether it be small details and such?"
Yeah. Hi, zombie. Um, I what would I add to Allie's character? That's a good question. Um, what I feel like maybe just we could see some. What would I add to Allie's character is Allie getting to experience a Halloween party. That's what I would add. I would love to see Allie have a good time at a Halloween party.
Yeah, her and her making it through the end of the movie would also probably be something she would
Yeah.
for sure add. Which I mean, hey, that's actually an interesting thing I thought of is like, how do you in your personal life relate to the character of Allie?
Um, yeah, I think for Allie, I think she is a very empathetic friend, a sympathetic friend to what Sienna was going through. I don't think maybe that is a detail. I feel like I would want to show that a little bit more. Uh, I mean, we did get to show it a little bit in the conversation that they had. Oh, Bodies was a fun movie. Oh, sorry. But um, yeah, I do. But so I tend to also be the empathetic friend in my friend group. So that's why I think I understood. I felt like I understood Allie, or maybe I brought that to Allie. I'm not sure which one it was, but yeah, and I also, for some reason, decided she was going to be a journalist. So a writer, I'm not a journalist, but for some reason, I got this feeling that she was going to go to school and be a journalist and whatnot. And that could also be an influence from my best friend who is a journalist. So I feel like maybe I brought that into it um, just randomly, but yeah, I don't know. I think that there are elements there that connected that I just created and added onto her.
That's awesome. Uh, and yeah, you mentioned bodies. Do you have a favorite comedy thriller?
Favorite comedy thriller? Um, that was a good one. Um, y- I I haven't. I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't watched it. I don't think I've watched a comedy thriller recently, and I'm trying now. So now I'm trying to remember which comedy thrillers I have seen. Um, do the scary movies count?
I'd count them.
I think
But,
those are pretty fun.
but oh
Um,
yeah,
I actually auditioned for a horror comedy once, and it was one of the most fun auditions I've ever had. I didn't end up booking it, but I had so much fun with that. So I think I love combining genres like that. So yeah, but bodies is a good one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the new
And
Freaky
I mean,
Friday.
I would love to see you in a comedy thriller one time. That'd be really, I think that'd be really fun. And says Zombie also says we would love to see Ghostface Casey.
I would love to
Yeah,
play Ghostface.
absolutely. Being the actual killer itself, that'd
That'd
be.
be hilarious.
I
That'd be
would.
so funny. That would
I
be a
think,
comedy thriller.
yeah, that technically counts.
Wait, it's really funny because we realized we're both Sagittarius, and
Yes.
for some reason, all of these like different horoscope, zodiac platforms keep for Halloween, they keep associating the Sagittarius sign with Ghostface. And I'm like, that's too funny. So the fact that you said
That's,
that
yeah,
just maybe I should play Ghostface.
maybe it's meant to be. I mean, like we said, the interview was meant to be. Maybe it's meant to be for you to play Ghostface, and it's just it's interesting because like that's my favorite horror franchise. And knowing
Yeah,
that Sagittarius is compared to Ghostface, it's like
yeah.
that's,
They
that's like I don't know.
yeah, I thought that was so funny.
Oh man, but uh, and I mean, hey, we talked about you being in a horror franchise like that. But um what would you want to see like if the character of Allie
Uh-huh.
herself was in another horror movie, like what would you want to see? Like where do you feel like she would fit?
Allie. Oh, that's a really interesting question. I feel like my mind is on Scream. I'm just set on Scream right now. Um, I wonder hmm. I wonder I feel like she would be a ghost related movie. I feel like she would be in like a Paranormal Activity or like a Conjuring or Insidious, something related to like some paranormal stuff happening, and she would be like an investigative journalist being like, hey, let's figure that our Stranger Things, that's not really a horror, but like she would be like the Nancy. I feel like she would be yeah, I feel like she would something like that, where she'd be trying to figure out some paranormal activity happening.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I absolutely. And from prior interviews I've seen of you, you're kind of into as far as horror goes. Like that's from a prior interview I watched. You were that's also like a thing that you're a fan
yeah,
of is like horror, like that kind of horror, paranormal or ghost
yeah.
stories or that kind of
Hmm.
stuff.
That's true.
And speaking of genres of horrors, uh, Chengo also asks, "I love movies about witches. A
Hmm.
movie like Unfriended is such a fresh take. Any favorite witch genre?"
That's a really good one. Well, honestly, I loved the Witch with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Hmm.
That movie was so good. That movie really stands out to me, and I still have vivid images of that film. Um, so, and I really, really loved that film. Um, yeah, that's probably that was probably it. Before she was a household name, you know.
Yeah,
That movie was so good.
it was, and as someone who I'm not really anymore, but as someone who used to be religious, I
Mhm.
was watching it around that time when I was, that way, and it was just like it had that like an even stronger effect on me because of
Yeah,
that, and it was something that I just uh I remember I could not sleep for like a week after watching that.
oh my gosh,
It
yeah,
was insane. Just the themes that it brought up were yeah,
mhm,
it was terrifying.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was so
so
good.
so good.
Unfriended is good too, though.
It is. It is. I remember I was actually kind of surprised by Unfriended because I thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be not so good, and then I ended up watching it and actually being really surprised. And The Craft is also a fun witch one too, with
Oh my gosh, of course.
Nev Campbell. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
The Craft is
that's
great. Yep.
that one's excellent. And then of course Hocus Pocus and Hocus Pocus 2 just came
Well,
out. It's like,
I
yeah,
know. I was
those are
gonna say
great.
Hocus Pocus, and I was like, I feel like it's not scary enough. I
Yeah,
love Hocus Pocus.
It's so fun. Yeah, I grew up with that movie. It's so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, uh, I think that's about gonna
Yeah.
wrap it up. You
Thank
know,
you. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. This has been a complete uh, blast, just talking just all
Yeah.
things Terrifier 2, but also just movies in general with you. It's just really fun.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great. Such a pleasure to meet you and like finally join you on camera.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, but not because we've been talking, you know,
Yeah.
on Instagram, but it's good to
Mhm.
finally like
Yeah.
actually uh talk in person now.
Absolutely.
And now that you're on here, just like all my special guests, I consider you a friend of the channel. So anytime that you want to just message me and say, hey, you know, let's talk about stuff,
Yeah.
and I'll be completely
For
fine with
sure.
that. So
Thank you.
absolutely. So yeah, guys, make sure that you go and check out uh Terrifier 2 in theaters. The way it's meant to be seen, and trust me, you definitely want to see this in theaters. It's
Yeah.
great in theaters, and even if you don't, I do know it's going to be on Screenbox at some point. I don't know when,
Yes.
but yeah, that's
Yeah.
gonna
I don't know the exact date. I feel like by early November it should
yeah,
be there, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
and that's a pretty cool streaming service. They've done some pretty
Yeah.
cool things on there. So plus I saw on like the on Lauren's Instagram story today. I was that it's also available for pre-order if you guys want to actually like
Yes.
buy it, so you guys can do that as well. So
Yes.
you know,
That too.
absolutely. So that
Yeah.
would be it, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it, and definitely thanks again, and we will see you all in the next video, guys. But until next time, stay spooky, my friends.